Ozzy poster behind you.
What up, virtual people? Welcome to episode 50 of VCR Redux. We take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2022. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have two radical guests on the show tonight. First up, our own honorary third host from Rick Barth in the line. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. Mickey Torres is on the show.
What's up, everyone?
And rounding out this righteous crew, he's a pop culture author that's written about Howard the Duck, Christmas Story, Dark Crystal, E.T., Pee-wee's Playhouse, and of course, Back to the Future in his book, We Don't Need Roads, the making of the Back to the Future trilogy. His newest book, Footnotes, is available on Amazon now. Caseen Gaines is on the show.
Yay!
Oh, hello. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming back on. I am your biggest fan, so this is a huge honor
I'm your
for me.
biggest fan. So
Oh, get out of town.
that's
To quote Marty McFly, get right out of town. We are here today, at any rate, to dust off the DeLorean, fire up the flux capacitor, and hoverboard like it's 1985. That's right, folks. It's time for Back to the Future 4, Out of Time. But before we can figure out what the flux is going on, we need to talk about how Back to the Future came into our lives and what we love about it. And that means it's also time for you guys watching at home to dish and how it came into your lives. We talking VHS, laser, theaters, cable? Hit us up in the live chat and let us know. So, Caseen, do you remember the very first time you watched Back to the Future?
I remember the very first time. I like low key would like to pretend to be sick to get out of school, but my mom was like way too hip to that, and so I knew that I had to get to school and then be sent home by the nurse because that, like, you couldn't disagree with that. So I got sent home around like maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I have an aunt that worked nights, so like whenever I was sent home, she was designated to kind of pick me up and babysit me during the day. And she had, I mean, you would love this actually, Chris. She had, like, just in my memory, books and VHS tapes, and they were just like mixed together on bookshelves. Like they were just like all like wall to wall everything. And she took out it was a 4 VHS set of Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3, and then the secrets of the Back to the Future trilogy.
Hosted by Kirk Cameron.
That I'm talking about with Kirk. Yep, right. And so she pulled it out. And she takes out the first one and she says, I'm going to put this on. I think you would like this. And I remember, I swear, like it was yesterday, looking at the VHS art, that beautiful Drew Struzan art, and just being like, I have no idea what this movie's about. I recognize Michael J. Fox from Family Ties. And I was like, there's fire between his legs. This car looks crazy. Like, what is this movie even about? Like, I was hooked just from the cardboard sleeve. And from the moment that movie went in, I was like completely on the ride, and somehow it didn't click to me that there were more. So when it said like to be continued, I was like, oh, well, when's the next one coming out? And my aunt was like, oh, here's the next one.
Man. I'm so jealous of this story.
I had the trilogy experience. My first time seeing Back to the Future, I was probably 5-6 years old, and I got the trilogy experience, and I was like, I was hooked.
Wow, that is just pure poetry. Everything you said, from the love you just gave to Drew Struzan and the greatest one sheet ever.
Yeah.
And I love what Michael J. Fox says about that poster, by the way. He's like, that's the first few notes of the piece. That is the movie. When a poster works like that, and you could say that about a lot of Drew Struzan posters, but that one particularly, it's just magic. I'll get into my intro to Back to the Future shortly. Mickey, Ian, do you guys remember your first times watching Back to the Future? I hope it was a date for you, Mickey, because I'm guessing it was probably HBO.
Yeah, no, the first one I think I saw on HBO. Yeah, for sure. But the second one I went to the theaters for.
Okay.
So I did see the second one, and the third one, I saw it in theaters as well.
Was that one a date? Because I feel like you're holding a little something back.
No, I don't believe so. I think I saw that with some friends, but like,
Well, with some friends. Okay. So
Yeah.
Mac Daddy Mickey Torres, one time in his life, he went with some friends. Okay.
There's plenty of movies that I went with some friends, but like, but I remember like catching this on HBO, and I think I probably caught it like on a Saturday night or something like that, and I was just like, yeah. And I thought that, I mean, like, there's not enough to be said about this movie. I absolutely adore this movie and the franchise. Well, I will be honest and say that I'm not a huge fan of Part 3, but that's because I don't like Westerns. So that's,
I can understand that.
And you're un-American. It's okay. All right.
So Ian, first time going Back to the Future.
So I remember very vividly, I was sold on that box artwork, but I remember I rented it from the Wellman, Iowa Public Library, and I rented Back to the Future II. All right, so
you went to two first.
I was Back to the Future II was the
This
first one.
explains everything that I know about you now. This is amazing.
Just saying, this is insane.
I love this.
That was the first one. That was the one that they had at the library. They only had the second one at the library, so I rented that. And of course, you know, that movie is just there. We'll say more about it later, but you know, the future stuff, like all this, that was great. And I'll be honest, I did Back to the Future all backwards, right? So I saw that. Then I remember seeing the 3, I think, on HBO. If I'm not mistaken, I think, did they show that on HBO?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, so I think I saw 3 on HBO. Then it wasn't until years later that I saw Back to the Future 1. Like, it was just like, they didn't have it in the store until I was in like junior high, and then they showed it on HBO one night. And I'm like, oh, I see the first one. You
got to go to a different video store.
Yeah, what kind of lazy man are you? You're just waiting on this to come to you. You got to go out and find this movie, you know.
Sir, have you been to Wellman, Iowa?
You know how many video stores I've been to in my life? I feel like I've been watching too much In Living Color lately, but I remember the episode about the people with all the jobs, and they tell you you're lazy if you only have like 4 jobs.
Man.
One job? Are you crazy? Like,
I know.
One video store? Are you out of your mind? Like, boy, when I was
However, I am one of the last groups of people that summer to actually do Back to the Future the ride at Universal Studios before they changed it all. I did E.T., I did Kong, I did all Jaws. I had all the original. I had Earthquake.
E.T. still in Florida.
Is it stuff? I can't remember which ones I can't remember which one they had, but I did
the E.T. is the last man standing. I think it's the last one.
Yeah, but I did but I remember doing that ride, and nothing ever beat that.
Universal Studios was one of the greatest things ever, and I love Back to the Future so much that I used to get pumped when they would have, remember that little teaser trailer they would have at the beginning of all those Universal tapes around like 89 to 91? Universal Studios, and in each letter are clips from different movies. It's like Jaws and the U, and then Back to the Future and the N, and then like something else in the I.
Years to figure out.
Kind of like the original Marvel.
Yeah, but it took me years to figure out that was Battlestar Galactica.
I
I always wondered, what is that movie with the red eyes and the lasers? What is that? Took me years to, but at that Universal, I bought the VHS trilogy. I remember that was one of the last VHSs I ever bought in my life.
The glory days of VHS box sets. That was like that was like a luxurious ass thing to have. Like, if I felt like that was a flex. If it's like whatever, you could have had like the Rodney Dangerfield golf, parody videos, and like it was a flex to have a box set of anything on VHS. That was just like,
I don't think I ever
first class living.
I can't even remember.
I couldn't, I didn't even think that Laserdisc was like a thing, and in my mind that was like as great as home video got, was like these luscious box sets and these 2-tape sets, things like, like the God, my parents had like 1 million copies of The Godfather and Dr. Zhivago, and I was like, wow, we must be rich. Look at all these tapes.
I
movie.
I do remember being jealous of the House movies. Sean S. Cunningham's House and House 2, the Second Story. I remember like being so jealous of anybody that had that double VHS set.
I think the House movies,
don't judge me for that. I heard.
Oh no judging at all. They're great.
I
Those
saw
are classic
all three
VHS
of your
covers.
eyes
Those
judge me, you bastards.
No. I did a thought bubble. I had to come out of my head and think about House for a second because I really love it, and there isn't anything witty or funny I could say. That's just a great movie.
I still feel bad that you saw Back to the Future as the third one. I mean, I'm still on that.
Well,
I know something.
In Ian's defense, though, you could watch 2 on its own and not have
and it
seen
works.
1.
It works. It totally
fine.
works.
It does, yeah.
Because you don't get really what happened beforehand. Like
I get a little recap.
Yeah,
a little recap.
Yeah, like Back to the Future, I actually works on as like a true good sequel where you don't have to watch the first one in order to. I think that's James Cameron's theory. You should never have to watch the first one in order to enjoy the sequel. Like the sequel should stand because I mean, what T2 stands on its own, Aliens kind of stands on its own.
Yeah,
you get enough. Like they do give you the backstory. Like I figured it out, but without really knowing the context, being what 8 or something at that time, like it didn't
you
matter.
went on a fun ride with hoverboards and
that's what it was. It was the future world that and literally we all know it because of that movie. We all want flying cars. That's just a known fact throughout the world. That movie cheated us.
Oh, that movie, somewhere the timeline got screwed up. In some ways minorly, the Cubs only won a year later than they were supposed to, but in some ways majorly, we didn't get fucking hoverboards.
It's because we voted for Trump. That's what. No.
Yeah, you're right. Biff became president, and let's just fucking say it like it is, and then things got weird. And now we have no hoverboards, no self-lacing shoes, and god damn it, no one I can ever see wear their pants inside out. It doesn't happen. And I thought kids of today.
But you guys aren't wearing your pants inside out? I would get up, but
I just pull out my pants pockets to try and.
You're wearing pants? No. But can I ask this though? When the first VHS of Back to the Future came out, was there to be continued?
Yes.
There was.
Yes.
But in the movie,
this was back when the VHS didn't come out until almost a year after the movie.
Okay, but in the movie theaters, there was
no to be continued.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And now I am because
I have to be concluded, and it did have
2 had that, and 3 had the end. Yeah, but I'm because I grew up with the movie on VHS, I'm kind of I miss the to be continued being there when I watch the movie on Blu-ray or on cable or anything like that. Like it just feels like. Oh, that is like one little piece that does really, help tie it all together. And like,
do they take that off?
Yeah. They took it off for the ever since DVD. They're like, oh, well, this is the way it aired in theaters in 1985, and I do appreciate the purity of that. But I also appreciate the continuity of like, well, you couldn't have hated it that much, otherwise you wouldn't have added it in 2 and 3 because it's something that Universal did without Bob and Bob, and I think that's like. Like, hey, we're making this sequel with or without you, so you guys might as well be involved. I think that was like part of the negotiations we're ramping up on the sequels thing. Or maybe not. Maybe, maybe that's just the way I imagine it. But anyway, sorry.
No, I was just saying it was the squeeze, they're trying to put the pressure on.
I feel like it was. But anyway, like I said, who really knows? Except like Sid Sheinberg and Steven Spielberg, right? Anyway, before I get into my Back to the Future story, I do want to touch on the chat real quick. I see Gold's Code in there. It's again our buddy Sean Gold coming down from Florida, great screenwriter. Says, Chris, you got to come back with me. Back to the mashups. Alex Bonafonte in there. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Says he watched all in theaters. I am extremely jealous. Didn't get to watch 1 in theaters until like 2010 or something like that. Also Gold's Code. Gold's Code. I never saw it, but this old man gave me a sports almanac. I told him to make like a tree and get out of here. So I see the quotes are flying fast, which is good. And there's some jokes there. Gold's Code, like Miami will ever get a baseball team. And yeah, the Cubbies beat Miami. Sharks still looks fake. A lot of this. Sean, also says, Ian, that is as smart as screen doors on a battleship. So I love the quotes coming in fast and furious. So me and Back to the Future, there is I have bad news and good news. The bad news is I don't remember the first time I watched Back to the Future. The good news is because I was so obsessed with it as a little kid that like I had just seen it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Like by the time I think I was 3 or 4 years old, I had worn out a tape copy of the movie. Like I played it and rewound it so many times that the tape actually broke. And my father still to this day thinks it's absolutely hilarious that like that was like a thing that he's like, that never happened to any other tapes that we own. Like Karate Kid got really degraded, but other than like the movies I watched too much.
That's actually like a reward for. Did any of you ever have one that broke?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I can't talk about it.
Well, but I remember like having to then order a copy of the movie from a video store and like wait for it to get there weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when it finally did, but this is, again, I loved the box, but these were the day I was so careless. I was a toddler. I like threw it across the room and immediately just started playing the movie. I would watch the movie, I would rewind it and immediately play it again. It was the easiest babysitter my parents could have ever, had when I was a kid. So I was obsessed. And that to be continued just haunted me for years because I was like, why is it taking so long? I have a bad feeling about this. I don't know why it's taking like this is taking forever. This is taking years. And it felt like a long time then, 5 years or 4 years, 4.5 years really. Or
well, I don't remember
like that.
I guess like, for me, I mean, like I have no, like, there's no recollection in my mind of like movie trailers. Like we watch movie trailers now. So like, I don't remember like TV commercials about movies coming out, like certain ones, like at least that far back. I like, for some reason, my brain just doesn't input that. Later on, I remember seeing some stuff, but I don't think it was like as popular as it is nowadays.
Well, and then what they released it in '89, like where basically every sequel came out in 1989. It's like,
well, I remember that coming out in theaters because like like I said, I saw the first one, I loved it, and then I just happened to maybe go by a movie theater and saw the poster, and it's like the coming soon or whatever case to be, and I was like, oh, what? And I never knew when that soon was, but I just kept on going to the movie theater and going like, is it now? Is it now? It's soon now. When's soon? Is soon tomorrow or is soon now?
I remember exactly leaving the theater for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and getting stopped dead in my tracks at the sight of a Back to the Future 2 poster. And like, as a little kid, like having to do this, like 19 times to make sure that I wasn't just looking at a poster for Back to the Future 1, because like some theaters would hang like vintage movie stuff around, or like current, back then vintage in my mind, from 85, right, and like 89. But at any rate, just being mesmerized at the sight of the one sheet and like being frozen, like I saw like Jesus Christ himself, like it was the hand of God putting that fucking poster in front of me. And then I finally got to see 2 and 3 in theaters, of course. And they were genius to film 2 and 3 back to back as one movie, or they maybe wrote themselves into a corner where they had to do it. But either way, it was really.
Was that one of the first movies to do that?
It was the first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Superman, right?
Superman.
Yeah.
I think Three Amigos did it too, or maybe I think Three Amigos. The sequels were.
There's a sequel.
Yeah.
What?
There's a sequel to Three Amigos?
I believe so. Don't make me be wrong here.
There was also, I believe, a canon film out there as well. Chuck Norris. What is it?
Missing in Action.
Missing in Action. Yeah, where they actually filmed 2. They released 2 as 1, and then 1 is 2.
Well, no,
a prequel.
2 was filmed first, and then right away they filmed the first, which was the second one.
Yeah, I'm getting a headache.
But 2 wasn't as good. The first one wasn't as good as the sequel, so they said, why don't you swap these so that people will go see the bad one as a sequel. Yeah.
That was the Missing in Action. Yeah, that's right. Gotta love Chuck Norris. The only thing they didn't have in Back to the Future was Chuck Norris,
but they had Ronald Reagan.
Well, my
That they
biggest thing
did.
too, seeing the first one, like, because as a kid, I was really it was starting to get to the point, like, to the age where I started to want to play guitar and stuff like that. So the Johnny B. Good scene alone was like, to me, it was like, I mean, there was a lot of stuff, like, obviously in the first one where he's playing guitar, like in his band in front of Huey Lewis, judging him and stuff like that. But that scene with, obviously, I love the scene where he blows up the amp, but the scene where, like, the Johnny B. Good scene, I was just like, always like I love that. I would like, the tape would always somehow like end up there, and I would rewind that over and over again and watch that scene. So I'm like,
It was, yeah, one of those great scenes that you like, you're dancing around in your pajamas in the living room like an idiot, throwing Fritos all over the place, every time that scene comes on. And I think it's one of the scenes that there was like the studio pressure to cut because it didn't really, it's the one scene where the plot kind of stops. They're like,
iconic.
no, just get going,
This
it's
was
so
beautifully
iconic.
shot too. Like I just love like looking
yeah.
at that scene.
It
Mhm.
really is. All the dance scene. I mean, every time they're in that gym in 1 and 2, Dean Cundy is at the top of his game because he has space to move the camera, and you get these beautiful crane shots and the dancing and the costumes, and like that is like old-fashioned movie making where all the departments are kicking ass in one frame.
Not only did the man shoot Halloween, he shoots Back to the Future and Jurassic Park. Like all these movies that we were all influenced by. Like,
incredible.
There
should be statues of this man. Dean Cundy,
and he's a nice
incredible
guy too. He's like just a really nice person. It's great.
I'm so jealous that you got to talk to Dean Cundy. That's so
cool.
cool.
So let me pick up that name I just dropped. Hold on, let me pick that
yeah. Oh no, you dropped it. I dropped it for you. I introed it for you. I kicked the door open. You're gonna, what are you gonna not tell me that Dean Cundy's a great guy? I mean, he's come on, it's Dean Cundy.
Yeah, no, he's really, really nice, and just just amazingly talented. I mean, again, I'm just stating the obvious, like Ian just said, but I mean, he's just a brilliant cinematographer. Really, really great.
Now tell me a Crispin Glover story.
Oh God, I have such Crispin Glover story. I feel bad. I said like poor Crispin Glover and Eric Stoltz must like, hey, I hope they don't have Google alerts set up because I feel like every time I'm on something, I'm always like shit talking them to some extent. But you want a Crispin Glover story? Really? I can give you one.
I would love it because I've got one for you guys too. So I want to hear.
Okay. This is a secondhand story, but so if you look at Netflix's The Movies That Made Us, their Back to the Future episode, I'm on it, I'm in it, and I told this story, and it was deemed like
I love this
weird
one.
For The Movies That Made It, and they were like, no, we believe the story, but like that's a level of strange that we don't know we want to go in this episode.
You're getting exclusive here, folks.
So this is a true story told to me by one Leah Thompson, who I believe is a truth teller.
Yes, I believe it as well.
And she said, Crispin really was having an issue with the end of the first film. He didn't like the idea that the McFlys, that their success was tethered in kind of this commercial version of success. He wrote a book, and now they're, they just are very.
He's got a BMW. The house is nice. Yeah.
Right. So he was really struggling with it, and he felt like he didn't know how to get into character. So he invites Leah over, or he asked Leah if she would run lines with him so he could get into character. And she says, okay. And he says, okay, can you meet me here? And it was the address to his house. So Leah goes over, and the house, everything is painted completely black inside. There is nothing. It's completely black. There is no furniture besides a gynecological table.
What?
This is so Leah walks in and she's like, so and Crispin's like, can you sit on the floor with me? And he takes out a canvas and says, can you paint with me? And together they paint a volcano. And he says, okay, you can go. I think I'm ready to do the scene tomorrow. And she left going, I don't know what that was about, but he did a great job in the scene. And that's a real life story via Leah Thompson.
Wow, I believe
as
that.
told in, if that isn't a commercial, as told in.
Yes, yes. Dude, hold it up again. Let the people know. See that beautiful artwork.
True story. Lots of fun gems
there
like
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
I almost feel, and go with me here. I almost feel like in that moment, having Leah do that, he felt, because if you take it back to George is successful, whatever like that, and she's just such a supporter. Like, I almost feel like that was her being supportive of him and him able to use that at the end scene. Like I'm successful and this is my woman and she's by my side and she's like supporting me and this and that kind of deal. Like,
but I'm still creative. I painted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever crazy idea George McFly has, like, she will be by his side.
And she said he was totally like, he wasn't like a weirdo or like it was like it was a totally like up and up,
unquestionably, he's unquestionably a brilliant artist. And you want genius, you get madness. It's two sides of the same coin. It's a tough balancing act. Yeah,
I love this.
I love
story.
it. I totally believe it, because I've heard Bob talk about him doing that last scene under protest and like soliciting crew members wearing different like weird artsy clothes and being like, "Don't you think George should look like this?" Yeah. And not like wearing a blazer and a polo, like a gator shirt, a gator polo, And people were like, no, we don't, So, you always hear stories like that. You wanted his hair to stick straight up in the cafeteria scene in the 50s. And they're like, we already shot the other side. It's not going to match. And he goes, Brando never matched, There's a lot of great Crispin Glover stories. And, but again, who else could have done George McFly to such brilliance? Like, I mean,
I agree.
It's a very memorable classic role in this history of film, not even just 80s film. But we should.
Eric Stoltz should have been George McFly.
Well, I always thought about this. I'll bet you.
No, not at all.
I'll bet you $1 million that Crispin might have preferred Eric Stoltz's version of Marty to like everyone. You know what I mean? Because he actually looks like he could be Crispin Glover's son. They would maybe match his father and son a little bit.
I'm curious, to be honest. Like, I would be curious to see an entire Back to the Future movie, with Eric Stoltz.
I feel like we'll see it someday because it's the holy grail. I feel like we'll see it someday.
I was gonna say like
not completely.
No, I mean like
it'll be like the Richard Donner cut, right?
I'm not saying it's gonna be. I'm not saying it's great.
How much of it did they film though? With Eric,
they shot like 6 out of 8 weeks. Yeah, it's like it was 8 or 10 week shoot.
They filmed
6
more
weeks.
than half
a lot.
So but in the movie sense, would you say that was like half of the movie or almost more than half?
I'd say probably at least 2/3 or 3/4.
Release the Stoltz cut.
But let me say, it's a funny thing which I never thought about until once again. Sorry to keep mentioning Leah, but she said when she goes back to watch the Back to the Future films, as much as she loves them, there's always something a little bit bittersweet about it, because almost every single scene that she's in, she's with someone who's replaced one of her friends. She was great friends with Eric Stoltz, and then she's in with Michael.
Were they dating at the time?
I don't. I'm gonna say I don't know. No, not at the time. No, she was with Dennis Quaid at the time.
That's right. That's right. But Eric Stoltz, as I've read in many books and heard from many people, he certainly had his eye on Leah and really liked her, and that caused problems on their next movie, Some Kind of Wonderful,
correct.
Which was being directed by her future husband, Howard Deutsch.
Howard the husband.
So, two people were in love with her making that movie, and that got to be, tough when it's between the lead actor and the director, right? But at any rate,
the director makes more money.
Let's be honest though, it was the right choice, and I've heard Robert Zemeckis talk about like as much as it killed everybody to do it. In the long run, and I mean, let's be honest, it made Michael Fox's movie career happen, because I mean, it was, before this, it was Teen Wolf. We all love Teen Wolf.
The Teen Wolf held out its release until after. And that's
what I'm saying. Like it would have made his, Michael J. Fox.
Back to the Future turned Teen Wolf into a fucking hit. It was a number 2 hit, and it held number 2 for a long time. So you had the number 1 and number 2 movie. and he had the #2 TV show. It was a pretty, that's a pretty impressive trifecta. I doubt you'll ever see that again from any fucking actor.
What do you do now? Let's go do a movie about Coke in New York City. There we go. That's how we follow this up,
Well, he did.
Love that
first
movie.
of all,
You would love that movie. Gosh.
First of all, he
Coke
still
in New
did-
York City. I'm in.
Bright Lights, Big City is a great movie, as is Casualties of War, as is Light of Day with Joan Jett.
Love Light of Day.
Didn't connect with audiences because they wanted that poppy, light, fun brand. That
I wonder why
cultivated,
Casualties of War did not connect with audiences.
It opened up against Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What can you do?
That's the reason why. Couldn't compete with The Killing of the Ant. That movie.
I'm sorry, fucking Casualties of War is a masterpiece.
Of course it is. I'm just saying,
one of De Palma's best.
Gosh.
But anyway,
everybody hates themselves after watching that movie.
Of course, but we should talk about a little bit about Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3 because, as I see in the chat,
we're going to talk about Casualties of War right now.
The pitches are already coming in for Back to the Future 4. So I do just, again, say a few brief things about Back to the Future 2 and 3. 2 was just, I think, as anticipated as a movie could possibly be for me. Like, I was just so hyped up and so amped for this movie. There was no way it could possibly disappoint. And what they delivered was like almost Godfather 2 in level of like genius and this way of like, we're going to kind of expand things, but we're also going to fold it back in on itself.
But why does
I kind of love 2 more?
Well, I do too.
There's a lot of aspects of 2 that I like. Like, I like being back at the Enchantment Under Sea dance.
Yeah.
Even more the second time around.
But why does every critic hate the first part of Back to the Future and yet hail the second part? I've never understood this. Every critic always hates the future stuff. Yeah. Read all the reviews.
Okay. Yeah. Vintage reviews, because you know why? Yeah. Because you're always going to be getting half right and half wrong. And when you at best, right? And I think they got a lot more right about their future predictions than they got wrong. Sorry. No, what were you gonna say?
No, first of all, this has been plaguing me the entire conversation. It's Three Musketeers, not Three Amigos.
Yes, which is also Richard Lester.
That was the answer from
Oh yeah.
But I actually think part of it is like the second half of part 2 is just so incredibly creative. Like the ability to go, like I just wonder if by comparison, like, I mean, look, the future stuff is fun and innovative, and as I think Ian said earlier, like we still have all of these fantasies about Back to the Future 2, and even though 2015 is in the rear view, like we still kind of hope that we're going to get some of these things at some point. But just the creativity of being able to revisit the events of the first film, I think is just sort of, I mean, if you're a critic and you have to critique something, the first half of the film is kind of the only thing you can critique, because I think the rest of it is just so good.
Biff's world alone, like the scenery of all that, I'm like, oh, this is so awesome.
Oh, I like
Future
Hell
Biff.
Valley.
I love
great.
Future Biff. The crazy psycho.
Griff, you mean his grandson?
Or Griff, yeah.
Like, Griff is great. I love Ricky Dean Logan. I love that whole gang that they're in. Jason Scott Lee. Oh man.
Unless you fly.
Oh my God, yeah. Those boards don't work on water. Unless you got power.
Big fly, you bojo.
And the stunt woman, there was a stunt woman that was injured very badly in that scene. When you watch the 3 hoverboard people go up into the clock tower, you'll ever notice that one of them kind of bounces off a pillar on her way in? Well, what you don't see is after it cuts to a different shot, basically the quick release she was in dropped her like 30 feet down, and she's supposed to, you can kind of see it a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And like she landed like face down on concrete. She was in the hospital for like 6 months. And like, this is back in the days of like PR and the internet. Now this shit would be all over the place. But back in those days, that story did not get out until years later, years and years later.
Mm-hmm.
People in Hollywood knew about it. But other than that, so that, again, a lot of people put a lot into making these movies, and we should be grateful. I think her name was Cheryl Wheeler Dixon. Am I right about that, Caseen? That's it. Yeah, good. I want to give her credit because I don't think too many other people, went through that kind of shit for this movie. Although Michael J. Fox did have almost died doing the hanging stunt in part 3. That went haywire. And again, that's fucking, how does that happen, right? On a big studio movie, your
Your main
superstar
actor. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
But scary stuff. These things happen all the time. 3, again, Mickey, you said it before. Yeah, it's a Western, and that does, that feels off brand, right? Like, and I think they were kind of stuck at a certain point. If you go anywhere else, like if you go to the 60s or the 70s, or you go to the 30s or the 20s, or you go to the West, it's always going to feel off brand somehow. And, you can't go back to the 50s again.
And I feel like this movie strayed away from Michael J. Fox, being the key star. This was basically a Doc Brown movie, in a way.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
I will tell you the one thing I hate about 3, and this, everybody could probably yell at me for it. Maybe I'm taking the movie too seriously, but it's such a cop-out ending of this movie when, well, the fax machine thing erased. What does that mean? Oh, you can make up whatever. It doesn't matter. The future is yours. Well, then why'd you make me sit through these 3 damn movies and all this crap? If like that, I'll be honest, that still to this day kind of ticks me off a little bit. I thought that was a very cop-out ending.
I think what you're missing though is a large part of the theme of these movies is that there are these moments in life, right, where these little moments that you go left or you go right, and they can very much drastically change the course of your entire life, your entire future. And going back and just giving someone a nudge in a different direction at these key moments is kind of what the movies have always been about. And yeah, I get like the whole your kids going to jail and 2 thing is like, and Bob Gale even jokes about it himself. He's like, couldn't Doc just hand Marty a box of condoms to call it a day? Like, there, your problem solved. We don't need to go back to we don't need to go to the future.
Wow.
But it's 3 does have some really great stuff in it, and like those guys all loved Westerns. Bob Gale, Bob Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg. So like that was a great movie for them. And like it's like the Back to the Future all our dads loved, like that's the way I always think of that one.
And a lot of those,
the one that the dads liked the most for some,
Well, and I'm a Western fan, and a lot of those actors were actors from like Gunsmoke and all this. And it honestly, for the Western fans, it is great for that aspect. But
you and maybe Terry 2 others, right?
Of our age, yes. I'll be honest. You're right. Of our age group,
Do you think it would have worked better for you if 2 and 3 were one film, like they were originally conceived to be?
Like there's only one sequel?
For me,
so it was originally the screenplay was just too long, and so when they priced it out, I don't remember the exact amount, but when let's just for simple numbers, let's say they priced it out to be 75 million, let's say, whatever, and essentially they said, well, let's see if we fleshed it out, we could do part 2 for 50 and you could do part 3 for 50, and so do you want 2 films for 100 or 1 film for 75? And so they split it into 2, so it was really all supposed to be one film. Obviously they've been padded to make it 2. But do you think it would have worked better for you or for any of you, for all of you?
For me, because I feel like you would have gotten less of 3. And that like I feel like 3 would have been literally like maybe a few acts, or whatever like that. Like, or maybe
he just shows up like, hey Doc, let's go.
Yeah.
Just puts it in the car.
If they had
like 60-40, 2-3.
If they had done it as that, and let's say that people did love it and they called it Back to the Future Part 2 Paradox or whatever, then people would have never gotten off their back about, you could do a part 3. Come on, you did this amazing part 2. Now you got to do a part 3. So maybe it could have been better for me, because then we would have gotten more story, right? We would have gotten another adventure with Marty.
Well, we would have gotten like to me, like we would have gotten what my whole philosophy is like the kids. Now it's about the kids. Well, so I feel like you would have. I think you would have gotten that if you had Sandwich.
We will get there in just a sec. It is pitch time, but before we get into pitch time, is there anything we want to say about the animated series? I was a fan. I will say that.
I don't really remember it too well, to be honest.
I just remember it being part of that craze where it was like, if there was a movie, it had so it was Bill and Ted had a movie, Alf had a cartoon show, like
Beetlejuice
had a cartoon, Beetlejuice had a cartoon,
Little Shop of Horrors had a
it was like that was the thing to
Tales
do.
from the Crypt had one,
and probably because of Ghostbusters. Let's be honest,
Ghostbusters
was the hit show from the movie.
And that was all Fox too, right?
RoboCop and Rambo had cartoons. Oh god, that was such a glorious
Muppet Babies. Are we counting Muppet Babies?
Yeah.
Oh god, Muppet Babies, brilliant.
Muppet Babies.
Police Academy had
that. To me is an extension of Back to the Future. I love the Muppet Babies Back to the Future reference episodes and like the Star Wars and Indiana Jones ones. I mean, that show was so
they did.
Good
That's right.
Oh my, that show was just perfect.
I just remember Baby Kermit opening up the door and it's Yoda yelling at him from the swamp. I remember that.
Yeah.
So it is pitch time, and I know there's some in the chat. I will.
What do we do? Nothing. You don't have a sequel to any more Back to the Futures. End of the episode.
I don't really think there should be a Back to the Future 4, much like the creators don't feel like there should be a Back to the Future 4. However, I do feel like this universe is so rich that there is plenty of room for spin-offs that don't really affect the original trilogy of films.
Well, you remember for the longest time they were talking about that Back to the Future remake with Justin Bieber.
Oh my god, that is disgusting right now.
Yeah.
I can taste the vomit.
I was like,
it's horrible.
Collectively, all four of us winced when that was said.
No, because I had forgotten about it's funny.
And that was going for a while. That was going for a while.
The good news is any pitch we hear from this moment on in the episode is going to be better than that one. So let's get into it. Again, some people in the chat that I didn't see before: Devin Zane, Mike and Angie Saunders, the Mashup Geniuses, Mike Riffraff. Thank you all so much for tuning in, guys. Gold's Co with the first pitch. Biff steals Doc's train while Doc is in the back. He goes to 1955, 1985, and 2015 to tour our favorite scenes and attempts to prevent Biff from altering the timeline. Fresh take that is both nostalgic and fun.
But wasn't that technically the ride?
Yeah, that kind of is the ride, basically.
Well, I never saw anything about the ride
the ride.
Oh, the ride was glorious. I feel like we should. Yeah.
Biff basically got into the time machine, and Doc has two time machines. So literally, Doc goes, "I can't go on the mission. You've got to go for me and find Biff." And you're following Biff's time machine as he like hits a dinosaur in the head, and it was kind of cool. I remember that, but that was kind of the thing. Biff was just going through time and like revisiting a bunch of stuff, if I remember right. But
he was just being Biff, just going on an adventure you could chase him on around Biff. Dinosaurs and volcanoes. It was a great that ride was pure magic.
Crazy. Get out of here, you little guy.
Put another coat of wax on there, Biff.
That ride was just absolutely amazing. That's the one thing I did get to experience at Universal. I didn't get to do like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids thing, which I always imagined was so cool. It was told it was so cool. But yeah, I did get to do the Back to the Future ride. It was amazing. Another pitch in the chat coming from Gold's Code, who's quite the screenwriter. Elderly Marty misses Doc and his adventures. Lonely, he finds a young Doc, teenage Doc, who says an old man gave him a train and a letter to find him. The letter says Doc needs his help. Now it's old Marty and young Doc who have to rescue our Doc.
Damn, that's actually not bad.
That's got promise. I like that.
That's actually not bad. Reversing it. That's actually not bad. That does
have some promise. Angie Saunders also says they go to the future again. They have to save their grandchildren with an LOL after. That's certainly got potential too. New name in there, E. Graham. So where was Biff's son? That's a great question. It's something that the Tannins never have children. They only have grandchildren, and they never have parents. They only have grandparents. So I don't know.
And you never saw like Biff's, wife, girlfriend that he got pregnant.
Ooh, yeah. How could you cast that role?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Unless they were going to do some demented thing where he got Leah Thompson pregnant. So like she has a, you know,
Stop it.
in that
Stop it.
world.
You're going too far now.
I'm just saying.
Stop
I'm just
it.
saying. These are things that could happen.
Well, here's the thing: there is a multiverse that
Stop it.
exists, and Hill Valley is a great location, and there is like a rich universe to draw from and build from. And there's some things that I think are teed up to perfection. And one of them I've been talking about for years. I've probably told you about this, Caseen. I know I've told you, Ian, and Mickey about this before. But one of my favorite moments in the trilogy is by the great James Tolkien, who plays Principal Strickland, and it's in part 2 in the dark 1985 when Marty like stumbles on his porch and grabs a newspaper to check the date, sees that it's 1985, you know, it can't be, and then there's Strickland with the shotgun, you know, so you're the son of a bitch that's been stealing my newspapers. Like, I want to see this whole fucking movie. I want to see this dark version where the school burnt down and the man whose whole life is about discipline goes batshit fucking crazy. And there's like some sort of street gang of like machine gunners that are out to get him. Like, there's punks and like metalheads and hobos all over Hill Valley.
So you want class of 84.
Biff is the ultimate villain.
That's kind of what it.
You have Biff Horrific is the ultimate villain, the comb over casino Biff, you know, and you have Leah Thompson, his old student who he has to rescue, and the heavy makeup, you know, with the Dolly Parton, you know, physique, to put it gently. I think that's a whole movie. Eat lead slackers, you know what I mean? And it's just fucking Principal Strickland going nuts.
It would be a great trailer. I will say
here's
that.
The thing. At the end of the movie, right? I've thought about this a lot. At the end of the movie, the timeline gets restored. So like they get this adventure, they save, you know, they kill Casino Biff and they like save Lorraine and all this stuff, and they save, you know, Dave and Linda McFly, you know, and
so
you know,
like
they save
2 and 3
you know.
never happened.
No. But what happens at the end of that adventure is the timeline. They all get kind of erased into a different existence. And because Marty and Doc restored the timeline, we don't see it, but we know. It's like Thanos, the end of Ant-Man. You know what I mean? When they turn to dust, and you're like, oh shit, I know what the fuck that means. You know? And we've seen people vanish out. You know, we've seen that happen before. So that's what I would do. You know, it would just be this great 80s, like, you know, canon style, trauma style, like Strickland and Shotgun, fucking hard R-rated, you know, just awesome, you know. And again, it wouldn't affect any of the other movies that go on. You don't even need the DeLorean. You don't even really need time travel that much, you know. It's bold, but it's out there, and I'm just saying, I would watch the shit out of that. James Tolkien could still do it.
Huey Lewis has to have a part.
Directed by Bob Zemeckis in your universe, or
would still be directed by Bob Zemeckis. I would never say no to something being directed by Bob Zemeckis.
It's got it. It's got to.
I can't picture him saying yes, but yeah, that would be great.
He would.
This is our 50th show, right?
Our 50th show, Bob.
So
I know you've been watching.
So I can say something stupid, but the only thing I'm missing out of this.
You're just waiting for the 50th to say that?
Shut up, Mickey. But the one thing I was missing out of the DVD releases of these movies was actually like fun menus. Like, I actually wanted
like
DVD
Easter
menus.
eggs.
Yeah, I wanted my DVD menus to actually be in like Cafe 80s for like part 2. Like, is it wrong that that's what I'm missing from the series?
Well,
like,
Universal has gone to a standardized menu system for all their Blu-rays. The DVD kind of had somewhat quasi fun menus, but then when you got to the Blu-ray, they were either just reusing the menu image from the DVD, or they were
the cover
doing
art.
that, like they have this like sort of half circle cutout thing, and it's just this, all Blu-rays look. They don't allow anyone to have any fun with that kind of shit anymore, because like the money is not there for it. They just
physical
like, I want
to
to hit play and have like a Pepsi, an upside down Pepsi.
Universal takes their films very seriously too, so there's no fun to be had in a menu. No.
yeah.
Fast and Furious.
I feel like
the creators of Howard the Duck.
It's a very serious menu. They take it very seriously.
It's very serious.
It's funny. You guys went to the class of '84 for Chris's pitch. I was thinking like all of Cleveland and Howard the Duck, which is a weird, like horrific, like version of Cleveland.
Yes, exactly that, and like a little bit of Class of Nukem High. You know, you have some fucking
Nukem High
punks. Like,
I mean,
throw a little bit of that all in there. Be a great fun spin-off. You know,
I would love nothing more to just live in Biff World, like just like in a movie, just watch Biff World, just run rapid.
World is amazing, and you could totally do more of it. And the fucking backlot, you could, you know, that it's still there. It wouldn't even, you know, it's not like you have to
easy way.
The sun
Oh my
never
God.
shines in Hill Valley.
Yeah.
And
No.
you could get Billy Zane, you could get excuse
Jason
me,
Sudeikis.
Casey
JJ Cohen,
Sesmieko.
Casey Shimashko, the great Casey Shimashko.
You are saying that completely wrong, and you know
No,
it.
I think that's the way
Is it Sesmieko?
I thought it was Shimashko. You know, now you're fucking me up. His sister is
Shamasko, Shimeko,
his sister is Nina
Shimishagaho.
Shimashko.
What Kokomo? Like what?
Whatever.
Shamazel.
Yeah. Hassan Peffer Incorporated. You know, we know who he is. He's fucking 3D from Back to the Future, and he's Charlie from Young Guns, and he's great. But you get those guys back as Biff's gang. You know, they're the right.
They
age
never
for it
really
now,
got there.
too,
They
you know?
never really got there. That was the only. I will say that that's the one thing I'm missing from 3. Those guys should have been Biff's gang.
Oh well,
for
you know what they
continuity's
did?
sakes.
You know what they did though is in Flea's gang, each of those 3 guys is from a different Biff gang or Biff or Griff or Buford gang. There's like there's like the one guy from the Wild Wild West is Ricky Dean Logan from the future, and then there's JJ Cohen from
Oh, is that
50s.
what they did?
That's what they did in Flea's truck. His 3 guys are 3 different Biff
okay.
henchmen who you never saw in the 80s.
No, but I meant
you know?
in the Wild Wild West.
Right, yeah.
You should have had Billy
Yeah.
Zane and all those guys. Like that just would have made.
I mean,
more
I think they were already pushing it, having you know, Leah Thompson, you know, kind of there in the 3rd one. So
well,
they maybe
Michael
felt
J.
like,
Fox
yeah.
being his own grandfather, you know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Him and his mom are now married, technically. It was destined to happen, the timeline at some point.
Hashtag something that would not go over today.
Yes,
the whole
indeed.
entire plot line of.
So there
Back
are
to the
some more pitches. Some talk of games as sequels. Alex Bonafonte must have one in here that I didn't see. Okay. It says miniseries for Amazon. Bieber is a Back to the Future villain come to life. That's Alex Bonafonte. That's, you know, it's got potential.
Oh my gosh. Can I just I'm sorry, you guys. I realized what I lied to you all. And I owe our audience an apology. Because the movies were not my first bring into Back to the Future world. It was the Nintendo game.
Oh my God! So you were looking for the pie. You were looking for the food fight,
and where he's throwing the bees, which makes no sense.
Oh my God, that is like the worst and best video game adaptation
Am
ever.
I the only?
Like
did you guys?
Like it's
play
the
that?
best worst one, you know? Yeah, I played it. Yeah, I'll give you a little trivia.
Game before
So the music,
I watched the movie, so yeah.
The music for the game, yes. If you slow it down, it's Power of Love, just doubled in speed.
Nice.
It's a lot of people wouldn't be able to catch that.
I never caught that.
Yeah, I never fucking caught that. I'm a musician. I never caught that until like some YouTuber explained it to me. There's some more pitches though. Gold's Code says Doc has traveled far and wide. He sees the destructive path that humanity has caused. He controls Hill Valley and arrests anyone who could time travel. Now Biff must lead the resistance with the help of Marty and friends. Holy Cobra Kai, that is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Marty and Biff having to team up would be great. Some talk of Spaceballs having the best DVD menu in the chat.
The future depends on it.
Graham brings up a good point. He says, I want to know more about how Doc managed to steal plutonium. Like, what's that all about? Like, that could be an interesting movie too, if you think about it. Doc dealing with the Libyans. Doc and the Libyans, you know, or the Libyans somehow following Doc through time. You know, the Libyans need to get back involved in this movie and get their justice.
I never understood, like, so this is one of my weird pet peeves with Back to the Future. Ian said his with the facts. So the Libyans crash into that like photo mart,
yeah.
And then when Marty returns at the end of part 1, he just goes down and talks to Doc, and Doc had the bulletproof vest, and spoilers for those who haven't seen it. And
it's only been 4
but I'm thinking to myself, like, what happened to the Libyans? Like, why don't the Libyans see what's happening here? Because they didn't die. They just crashed into a flimsy, photo mart. So now Marty just runs down and is having this whole scene and this whole conversation. Like, it seems odd to me that they
I
live
always
happily ever after, and the Libyans are just like, oh, you got me, and now I'm just gonna live in this Winnebago for the rest of my life.
Because they figured that nobody would really care about that inconsistency. It's almost
just
like, I
an
mean, like
odd thing.
I get where you're at. Like me, like I'm the same way as far as like if there's a scene where a girl walks in and she has a purse and then like she walks out without the purse, I'm sitting there going like, the
Yeah.
purse.
I think
You
he
know,
took
my-
her wallet. I think he took her wallet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he
So
took
yeah, I love that guy.
The
I took that guy's
purse!
wallet. That guy,
So
that guy delivers that
aggressive
line
about
with such pathos.
Oh no, I've got
so
a focus issue.
he's so
There we
invested
go.
in that line.
The purse.
So there are some more pitches I want to get to. Again, Alex Bonafonte, I missed his real pitch. It says, well, Doc Brown is adventuring with the time choo-choo. Jean-Claude Van Damme is busy hunting down Biff's henchmen in order to stop Biff from becoming president of the United States. When time enforcement is abolished, Van Damme must team up with Doc Brown and Marty's mom to get charges to stick to Biff. They also must redo each attempt when things go worse. That's fucking amazing. I would watch the shit out of that. In fact, my good buddy,
Time
Mr.
cop to the future.
Yes, I'll fucking take my money, dude. The one thing we didn't get in this franchise were some fucking roundhouse kicks and some splits. I'm game for all of that. In fact, my buddy Anthony Ramirez, a great mashup artist of his own, actually did, I think, or maybe it was Matt Sharp, but one of my great buddies. They're both geniuses. One of them made a mashup. I think it was Anthony of Time Cop to the Future. It was great. Although maybe it was Matt Sharp. Either way, they're both geniuses. And I hope they were tuning in tonight, as it is episode 50. I see. Okay, Alex Bonafonte copied his pitch. There's also some love for the ever-changing group of Biff's henchmen in the chat. But we are almost out of time. Before we wrap it up, though, I do want to say that, because even though I didn't pitch things for Michael J. Fox to do, and we didn't really pitch Michael J. Fox heavy things, it's obviously out of respect for the fact that he has Parkinson's disease, he's not working. So if you want a Back to the Future 4 as badly as we do, the best way to do that is to honestly go out and donate money to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research, because it is a really legit cause, and God damn it, the world needs this man. He should be cranking out so much work. We should have solved this fucking 10 years ago. This is Michael J. Fox we're talking about, people. So seriously, send it every penny that you can, and maybe Back to the Future 4 will happen by people eminently more talented than us. But at any rate, before we wrap this up, Caseen, is there anything you've got coming up in the works you want to let people know about? Any upcoming books you can tease? Or appearances?
So E.T., the Ultimate Visual History, coming out in August.
Man.
It is oh boy, there's so much I want to say, but I can't say, but it is amazing. It's amazing. So it's a big book for the 40th. Don't we all feel old? The 40th anniversary of E.T.
Yeah, I saw ET in the theaters.
Is this year, and it's a huge deluxe coffee table book. Again, coming out this August.
Table
There are
book.
tons of pictures that have literally never before been seen, and I can't say much, but I will give this little teaser. Some photos, literally from Steven Spielberg's personal Polaroids.
Oh wow!
So truly taken out of a photo album and scanned for the very first time for this book. So that's all I can say. Yeah, go pre-order it. It's about I'm telling you, worth every cent. I promise.
Every one of his books is absolute gold, guys. If you're pop culture fans like me, you cannot go wrong. This man has an incredible library of content, and we're so grateful you came on the show and let us plug it for you one more time. Because again, we're just your biggest fans.
Please hold up the Back to the Future book, please.
Yes, hold that up again, because people, I've read a lot of books on Back to the Future. This is the one you got to read. Absolutely. Ian, Mickey, anything you guys got coming up in the works? Any articles, any shows, any plays? I know Mickey has some big news. He's a newfound homeowner, so we want to congratulate you on after that, my man. That is awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Anything else going on in your guys' corner of the world?
No, I just want this all to be about the upcoming ET book.
Hell yes. Ian, oh my God, yes.
Well, I can't beat that. But I can, however, offer you a fantastic article written about one of the most underrated films with the Roman numeral 6 in the history of mankind. And that is my newest article on Halloween 6, The Freaks, for the B Movie Challenge here on Fandom Spotlight. So if you ever wanted to know what the first true movie about a vampire versus a werewolf was, please go read this article.
My God, sir, you are a poet in your own right as well. I love it. 50 episodes this show. I hope we get 50 more.
Absolutely.
50.
So,
50 episodes.
And again, I want to sincerely thank everyone who watches this show and pitches along and has a great and keeps everyone laughing. This show would be nothing without you guys. You are the best.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I really love you all. And here comes the shameless plug for next week. So you Fandom fans might want to check out Monday's Walking Dead Reactor Panel, of course, hosted by the governor himself, Captain Kyle, at 9 p.m. And of course, we want you to come back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. when we search for the glow on our Last Dragon episode. And we'll be joined by longtime friend of the show, Lamar LeClean of Taped Off TV and Brothers from Another Planet. So be sure to tune in. As always, if there's a particular movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode, let us know in the comment section below. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight, the Hollow 9 Network, and Pop Culture Punk. Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.